Hey everybody, we back again.
We back.
All right. I'm Spencer, and of course that's our licensed clinical therapist, Naz.
Dr. Nas.
Sure, we'll say that.
One.
Oh, you're still going. Yep, there it
Two.
is.
I'm done.
All right. This is not Sesame Street. This is the Different Spectrums podcast, where we talk about movies, shows, and the mental health aspects that surround them. We also like to have some laughs, so don't take us too seriously.
Or do. It's up to you.
There you go. Also, don't forget to rub those likes for us. We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, before we get to our guest for today, shout out to all of our great collaborators that we have on the show: Bubs Naturals, Cure Hydration, Pinfinity, Silver Dollar Candle, Two Nerds Candle, and Cat and Raven Company. All of them. Yep. You can get discounts off of most of them on our link tree if you go there, or using the codes DSP or DSP20. You can fiddle around with that and see which one works for you.
It's on the link tree, people. Just click on
it. Yeah. We set up pretty nice that it's on there, so don't worry about it.
You can read it.
Yeah. Also, don't forget to check out our merch. We got some great things going on there. You can be different if you want to.
But I just want to fit in.
It's good. It's lovely. So with that, we'd like to welcome our special guest for today. She is a future geek therapist that likes to create a safe place and space for everyone, including immigrants, geeks, LGBTQ plus community, and any type of marginalized community. And she also has a podcast that she hosts called Psychology for Geeks. Please, everyone, welcome Elizabeth to the show.
Hello, I am really happy to be here. So I'm really looking forward to today.
I like the enthusiasms. Enthusiasms. Very nice. I'm Italian. So for today, we are going to be taking a look at the show, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yes. We're going to be talking about masking, folks. We're going to be talking about it. Yep. And we're going to be talking about all of the elements. That's right. We got fire, we got water, we got earth, and we got air. And then Fifth Element, if you watch the movie, The Fifth Element. So.
Oh, I thought we were getting ready to break out in Do You Remember songs? Earth, Wind, and Fire. Do you remember?
It's just September, jackass.
September.
It's not Do You Remember?
They start with Do You Remember?
All right. Well, with that, Naz, is there anything before we get into the show?
I was browsing the brain cells just right now. And I'm thinking, because we're going to do communication. And so I thought of some funny stuff when he's trying to talk to whatever the hell that was. I don't remember what animal. I'm going to just go with pigeon.
It was a frog, but almost. Sure.
I'm going to go with frog pigeon.
Yep. Frog is the pigeon without wings. So there you go.
It's in the pigeon family.
Yep. It's pigeon of pigeon.
It's, it's one of the Mexican pigeon. Oh, I'm done. Mexican pigeon.
He's Mexican, folks. He's Mexican. It's fine.
That's one of the Mexican pigeons.
He's not Hawaiian, believe it or not.
We're going to talk about some communication stuff. I was talking to some humans in the last few days. It's back to school. It's back to school and everyone's freaking out, socializing. COVID done messed up a lot of people. Some skills are weird these days. Communication is a thing that a lot of people are struggling with right now and getting back to normal in the first couple of weeks of school. So I'm going to have some fun and talk about that, autism and communication, specifically with pigeons.
Good old pigeons.
All right, I'm done. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
There you go. She was ready.
We did it.
Finally.
We did it.
A guest that does it without being communicated at. Just do the whoop, whoop. All right. And cut.
Yeah. Perfect. That was better than our normal. We have a bunch of regular guests that are on, and they don't even remember to do it. That was better than them.
Oh.
Colin was on from the beginning. That man never got right.
He'd just stare at us.
Whoop, Whoop. Like, Jesus. All right. Thanks, man.
I know. All right, let's get into it.
Hey everyone, before we get into the show, please check out our collaborator, Bubs Naturals. They sell a variety of health and wellness products, including collagen peptides, MCT oil powder, coffee, apple cider vinegar gummies, and other amazing products. Go to bubsnaturals.com and use our code DSP20 to get 20% off your entire order. And with that, let's get into the show.
Where am I supposed to get a firebending teacher?
We could look for Jong Jong.
Yeah, right. Like we'll ever run into Jong Jong again.
Who's? Oh, never mind. If it's important, I'll find out.
Oh well, guess we can't come up with anybody. Why don't we just take a nice tour around the temple?
What's up with him?
There's gotta be someone who can teach him firebending.
Hello, Zuko here, but I guess you probably already know me, sort of. So, the thing is, I have a lot of firebending experience, and I'm considered to be pretty good at it. Well, you've seen me, you know, when I was attacking you. Yeah, I guess I should apologize for that. But anyway, I'm good now. I mean, I thought I was good before, but now I realize I was bad. But anyway, I think it's time I joined your group and taught the Avatar firebending. Well, what's your answer? Yeah, that's what I'd say too. How am I supposed to convince these people I'm on their side? What would Uncle do? Zuko, you have to look within yourself to save yourself from your other self. Only then will your true self reveal itself. Even when I'm talking for him, I can't figure out what he means. What would Azula do? Listen, Avatar. I can join your group, or I can do something unspeakably horrible to you and your friends. Your choice. I guess I'm not that good at impersonations.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching our show today. We just wanted to take some time to give a special shout out to our collaborator, Cat and Raven Design. They are a small queer-owned business that specializes in LGBTQ plus pride soaps. They have great designs, some that even look good to eat, but don't. You can get 10% off your entire order if you use the code DSP or go to our Linktree. Help support this great small business and help give back to a great community. All right, everybody, we back again.
We back and we're live. Just as live as that clean shaven Spencer. Clean shaven. Look at
Yeah,
that.
that's me.
Look,
That's
look,
me.
got all the chins.
Yep, all two of them right there. And my butt chin. All right. So, as you can see my neck. All right, let's get into the show here.
I took a picture for work the other day, and someone's like, "You look skinny," and I literally said, "It's because I shoved my neck out like this, like I was a little pigeon."
Like an ostrich.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. All right. So, before we get to our guest today, brief overview of what Avatar: The Last Airbender is. Last Bender. That'll be an interesting show.
Lay off the drugs.
So Avatar: Last Airbender follows Aang, who is the Avatar, which is a person who has like a long lineage of different avatars that want to harness all different elements, including fire, wind, earth, and water. And so they're always trying to master all of these elements so that then they are, forever linked to being an avatar and things like that, right? And so we follow Aang, and they go, he goes on this journey of trying to master all of these elements, and the one element that he cannot harness for the first 2 books is fire. And so he does for a little bit. There it is, fire. And as we actually did a clip on Avatar, The Last Airbender, with Dom, and it was actually when he harnesses fire for a little bit, but then he hurts oh my gosh, what's her name? I forget. Katara. There it is. He hurts Katara with fire, and then he says that he'll never use his fire element again, right? And so then he meets a whole different amount of friends that help him with the different elements, and he's finally going to fight what they call the Fire Lord. And yep, just like that. Look at that. Wow. He's playing with Pokemon dolls, y'all. He's doing it. Yep, there you go. And so the Fire Lord's son, Zuko, who we saw in the clip, actually was chasing the Avatar through most of the books and trying to capture him. And now he's looking to actually be Aang's teacher to learn firebending, right? And so that's kind of where we are now. And now he's kind of psyching himself up to try and talk to the whole group, because they kind of don't like him because he's been trying to capture Aang and probably try to kill him, so yeah, good stuff. So with that, so Elizabeth, we know that you're in California right now. We just want to ask how you're doing overall.
Well, we are recording this after we had a hurricane and an earthquake at the same time, and it's been like over 100 degrees over the summer. So given that that's all happening, I am actually doing relatively well.
That's awesome.
Zeus is angry. That's what it is. It's Zeus.
Yep. That Greek gods coming back. Greek gods are coming back, y'all. Better watch out.
The monsters.
Watch out.
Mm-hmm.
So
they fight each other and we pay for it, right?
Yes.
Bastards.
Sounds like politics.
I was gonna go into like a whole Godzilla thing, King of the Monsters, but we won't do that. Not to hear.
All right.
King Ghidorah. Nope, won't do it. So Elizabeth, please tell us a little bit about you and how you came to follow this weird podcast that we got going on.
Well, about 3 years ago, I had a conversation with one of my supervisors at the time about social media and how everyone's sort of opinion around me was social media was very, very harmful. And I was like, oh, but I have found it to be the opposite. It's been so helpful for me because I was connecting with my friends. I was finding memes to send to my parents. It was great that, that I was on social media. So I was like, no. And I know there are a lot of social media platforms out there that are not the best and can be quite toxic sometimes. And I'm like, I think that's why we need more representation of the field of mental health in general, like online, because there is a lot of content that is being created about mental health, but it's being created by different artists or what are they called, like influencers, but they don't necessarily have like a professional background or a lot of information. They just sort of like repeat information that they hear or that they read online. Sometimes it's misconstrued. So I set about creating a positive and geeky, because I can't, that's part of who I am, like being geeky, so I had to be geeky. So I started by just creating an Instagram account and then just sharing geeky things that I liked and talking about mental health. And then it sort of like grew and now I have a website and a podcast that I'm doing with my brother now on YouTube. So it just sort of got bigger and bigger. I started by doing some collaborations at first because I was like, hey, I'm running out of things to put out there. Like I couldn't think of any other content. And then so I started collaborating with other like geeky professionals. And I was like, yeah, that's going to be like about a week of content. I will be good for at least a week. And then I started getting so much really good feedback from everyone that I was talking to, and everybody immediately like just agreed to like collaborate with me. And I was like, hey, maybe this is something that's kind of needed. So I actually created a series that I like to call Reframing Reenchant, in which I collaborated with other people, other mental health professionals, or life coaches, like whatever is sort of like in the field of health, about how they use the power of the fandoms to in their like chosen profession, like whatever it is that they were working on. Because I found out through social media, and that's how I came across this podcast, like through social media. That's how I found it. And I started to make connections with a lot of people that were like all over the country. And I was like, if I wasn't on social media, I would not have found anybody here. So I started reaching out, and I was like, hey, I just slowly want to gather people that I can geek out with about different things. So that's why like I continue with like my Reframing Reenchant series. And I think it would be nice for there to be sort of like a place that people can go. And if they're looking for like a life coach, or a personal trainer, or a therapist, or whatever, and if they have specific kind of fandoms, they can sort of like go on my website and check out some of the collaborations that I've done. So then they can go ahead and reach out to them, because I can't do everything. I have my own fandoms that I like. But if you know someone prefers someone who is more into video games, there are therapists out there. There are people out there that can do that. And then that's why I started collecting people, because I was like, eventually I'm going to have to refer people out, you know, depending on what they're looking for. I might not be able to do it on myself. So I was like, I'm just going to start collecting like people so I can refer clients out to them, if, you know, because D&D is another one that's like really, like I got into it because it's like so cool. And it's very, very similar to group therapy in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of therapists out there that are doing that. And I'm interested in doing it. I just don't have all the years of experience / don't really want to get them. But if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want to do a group, or I want to be part of a group therapy that does, you know, D&D, I can be like, I have someone I can refer you to, because I can't do it, but I know someone who does.
I know my boy.
Yeah, that's kind of how it started.
Very nice. So can I ask, how did you get in the mental health field, if you don't mind sharing, obviously?
Sure. I don't know where to start, but I think not too far back, hopefully. I started undergrad, just kind of.
Sure. In 1987.
When I was born.
I was driving a full Cadillac, and I said, mental health, that's the ticket.
Yeah, that's where all the millions and money I can make. That's where it is.
Died.
No, I actually.
I'm done.
Spoke to me from heaven and was like, this is what I need you to do.
Oh my God.
Oh, perfect.
No, I actually just overheard like someone at school when I was in high school kind of say that if you have a degree in psychology, you can pretty much do anything. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was like, sounds good to me. So then I started studying. And the more I studied, the more I was like, hey, this is really interesting. And I was like, I don't want to be a psychologist though. And then by my third year in university, I was like, nah, I do want to be a psychologist. So that's kind of really how I got started. Like it sounded like super interesting. And I've always like enjoyed helping people, and that seemed something that was something I could do. Like it was just my cup of tea. So I was like, yes, I think I can do this. And the more I learn, the more I work in this field, the more I fall in love with it. There's so many things though that are like really sucky about it. Yep. There's the whole like there's so much stigma around mental health in general. Like sometimes it's really expensive. Like we have so many student loans we need to pay, so sometimes therapy has to be sort of expensive, and dealing with like insurance companies, and there's a lot of things that are not the greatest. But I really enjoy working with people and geeking out with people and kids. So that's kind of how I got started. I just didn't really know what to do, and little by little I started falling in love more and more. And when I was actually in grad school, we had, I'm gonna go into like a slightly different tangent, but it will make sense, hopefully. I just want to talk about this. Please let me talk about it. Nobody ever listens to me.
Damn. All right.
Hold on.
Because I said it so many times. They're like, just shut up.
Let's break this down.
I know. Girl, we ain't real religious on here, but you need Jesus. I'm joking. I'm joking. Completely joking.
Did I just stop talking about it? I had a class. That's kind of like grad school is kind of where like I found my geeky nerdy friends, because like in high school and college I kind of like didn't talk about how geeky I was or like the geeky things I like, because it wasn't cool and I wanted to have friends, so I didn't really talk about that. But when I was in college or in grad school, I found a lot of people that were kind of like me, and they were like, yeah, we go to Comic-Con. And I was like, no way, you go to Comic-Con? I want to go to Comic-Con. And then that's just, like little by little I started showing or being proud of being a geek or a nerd, that because it's just part of who I am, part of my my culture. And so I took a class that they were offering. I think it was like, I don't know, my memory sucks, but it was something about like pop culture in therapy or something. It was by Dr. Janina Scarlett, and then she was the one that kind of got me interested in how we can use pop culture in our therapy sessions. And then after that, that was it for me. I was like, that's what I want to do. That's exactly what I want to do. And so when I started like opening like my social media and stuff, and I was like, yes, my website has to have everything geeky and mental health, because those are like two worlds that I'm really interested in into one, and that's perfect. So I've been trying to do that since then.
There you go.
Yeah. Any questions you got, Nas?
There was one, and then it got lost in the sauce.
And then it's gone. And then
but
it's
it was
gone.
all perfect. We got to understand where they come from, what they're doing, who they're trying to help. I really like how you're trying to collect all these people. And, I'm just in my head, I'm like, it's an infinity gauntlet. I'm like, just the last piece is the autism podcast like us.
Yes.
And just we're all gone.
They're all dead.
And actually, I think I found this podcast as I started working, because I had a job for the past year where I was doing autism evaluations actually. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to every time I work somewhere new, like my creativity or my brain just like goes on like 1,000%, and I'm like, what would be really cool if we have all of this information? Because I noticed like there's so much information about like neurodiversity out there, or like neurodivergent people, but again, not a lot of it is coming from actual trained professionals. Nope. And there's so much miscommunication that can happen in that way. Because I think there was a period of time where like there was so much information about self-care on like Instagram. That's the one that I tend to use the most, that it just made it seem like if you are doing self-care, that's all you need to like cure everything. And I was like, wouldn't that be great if that was actually like how it happened? And there was also so much information about like, or kind of almost misinformation about what happens in therapy, like in the therapy session, that I was like, no, we need to talk more about that. And since I was doing diagnoses for little kiddos, a lot of the times parents didn't really understand what it meant or what it meant for their child. There was a lot of concern of like, oh, my child is not going to be quote unquote normal person from here on? Is he ever going to be able to speak at all? So I was like, no, like here's all, like I wanted to have just to be like, hey, look, all this information, and I just wanted to like hand it over to parents, but that information doesn't really exist yet. So I wanted to like work with my previous job and like try to create that. And I think in the process of trying to do that, that's how I found the podcast. And I was like, great, yes, this is good.
It's the Instagram and Google algorithm. You just said the word autism, and then you just started getting accounts like us that popped into your feed.
Yeah. I'm gonna start just whispering things into my phone. I was just I need $1 million free. Please help me out here.
Cake. That's the one thing they won't give you. They won't give you any free money.
Right, free money.
No, you won't get money. You'll go in debt.
You can spend money.
Yeah.
Can't get money.
Spend money, yeah.
True.
I was thinking definitely. Then we'll get into some scenes, but there's a lot of stuff coming out, and you're right, it's not by a lot of research. The research is far behind when it comes to autism. What is neurodivergence? What does it mean to be less severe symptomology? What is autism versus disability? Those are two separate diagnoses, not the same. One can be on the spectrum without having a disability. The comorbidities are starting to become more and more. We're starting to understand that, a high population of folks that are trans identifies on the spectrum. OCD, anxiety, people are starting to understand that eating disorders now is something that should be immediately, your ears should pop up if there's disordered eating for folks that are on the spectrum. So some of the studies are coming out, but then again, most of them, the older ones, prior to 2015, it's going to be mostly white males. And so now we're starting to get some legit diversity in the diagnosing or in the testing. So that's exciting. My final paper for the doctorate was on women and autism and doing like this major meta-analysis and programming, implementation, policy changes. But we're a ways away. And the folks that are we're partnered with and we talk to, I mean, they are specialists. They ain't got no degrees in like autism and research and therapy, but these folks like know what they're talking about even more than I do. And so it's good to partner with those folks, but like research is way behind. So it's sad, but it's trending in a positive direction. And then last thing I'll talk about is, man, I get that all the time from parents, like even at the university level, like my kid's on the spectrum, huh? I'm like, yeah, for sure. Should I get a formal diagnosis? I'm like, if you can afford it, then get it. But like, they're definitely on the spectrum. They're like, well, they're going to live a regular life, a normal life. I'm like, what does that mean? Well, like, are they going to get married and have kids and like be happy? I'm like, I don't fucking know. Does your kid want to have kids? But I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're happy right now, so that's good. But like married, I don't know. I think they're asexual, but like you need to talk to them about that because the kid's right there in the room with me. I'm like, the kid's good. So parents will go through grief because the child may not have the life that they thought. Sometimes they'll be angry at me or the child. It gets real complicated with parents. And that working with adolescents, but it's even weirder when they get into college. But it's kind of fun doing the diagnosing, or I would say provisional diagnosing, because they can't formally do it. And then they end up telling their parents. And then the parents are like, wait a minute. And then the parent gets diagnosed. Then the sibling gets diagnosed. It's actually quite cool.
Yeah, I mean, yes, because we tend to see that quite often. Like, it's not sort of like something that most mental health diagnoses don't just sort of show up out of nowhere. Like, there's something in the family that hasn't been recognized, and that's another like part of the reason why I wanted to start collecting all these people and like so we can like collaborate and like get information out there, because there is I just wanted to normalize things, because especially for like autism or like even ADHD, sometimes they're both together. You mentioned happiness, like parents were talking about happiness, and I'm like, okay, so what really does it mean happiness? Like, happiness to the parents might be something different than for the child, like what you were saying, right? And then so like something soothing and using self-care for parent may be like, doing like a spa day at home and putting on a face mask. But for a kiddo, it might be just doing the same thing over and over again, and it might be weird for other people, but if that's what they find soothing, do it. Like, there's no reason, but we try to like fit everyone into like a neat little box, and I'm like, no, don't do that.
So for those of you that like self-care, as Spencer had mentioned, we got collaborators with soap. You get 20% off of soap, LGBTQ positive soap. We got candles. You smell good. It's soothing. What else we got? We got pens you can buy, and the nerd out, and the geeky, the nerdy. You like them, right? And then you got some hydration. If you need self care, look at our bio.
And if you need some type of apple cider vinegar gummies, Bub's Naturals.
If you don't like
coming
water,
right at you.
Look at your hydration.
Those sometimes are really good. They don't sound good, but they are good.
They're all right. They taste pretty good considering that they're vinegar in there. But you know,
right?
would,
Yeah.
like be chomping on them for for a snack.
Probably not recommending something like just back to back. Probably not.
Like some vinegar.
Oh damn, it's good. I thought it would be a good time to promo our partnerships.
Yes, as you should, because we don't have ads for that at all during the show. I didn't record any ads for us to do that at all.
They've already heard like 3 by now.
Yeah.
All right, Spence, let's pop it over to the scenes because I feel like we're going to digress into a bunch of different things after we get to it.
Yes. So, like I said in the intro, Zuko was at first kind of like the villain of the show, right? He was the villain. He was chasing Aang, Sokka, and then Katara, trying to capture Aang and bring him back to the Fire Lord, aka.
Hey everyone, I wanted to give a special shout out to our collaborator, Two Nerds Candle Company. Not only do they have great products, but they are also giving back to a great cause. You can tell that they take a lot of pride in making their candles. My favorite is Spock's Monday Coffee. They are also donating 10% annually to support Women in STEM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. You can use our code DSP or go to our link tree to get 20% off your entire order. We think that this company is great, and we think you will too. So go check them out.
Zuko's father, who's trying to win that approval. That's a whole other topic for a whole other day. But in this scene, he's talking to himself to try and become a little bit more likable for the group and try to kind of like, hey, let's forget like those couple years that I was just chasing you and trying to burn you to death. Let's just leave that over there, right? That's the past. Let's come on. And then he starts getting into like what his uncle would say and then what his sister would say, and didn't really help at all. So how would you say this scene translates for you, Elizabeth, into masking, and what kind of made you want to pick this scene?
Well, originally, so I this is one of my favorite shows, and Zuko is one of my favorite characters, like all-time favorites. So I think I just really like Zuko, and the first time that I watched it, or like the first few times that I watched it, every time that scene came up, I just felt the cringe. Like I got secondhand embarrassment every time I saw it. I was like, oh, and I just like I dismiss it. I didn't really think about it. And then when I was thinking about like something to choose something for this podcast, I was like, I don't know. There's like so many cool things out there, and I like everything. And then I was like, well, okay. I've been talking a lot about masking with my siblings, and my own sort of like self-care or healing journey has also led me to do a lot of reframing and introspection about masking, like how I've been masking and like just communicating with people in general and paying attention to my own sort of habits in terms of that. And then so when this scene for me is kind of like, he's a teenager. I think Zuko's like 16 or 17 here. So he's very like, I feel like everyone can identify with him because we all went through that phase. We were like so awkward and we didn't know what to do, to try to like talk to people, or even to just sometimes like at work, like as an adult, sometimes you have times where you're like, I have to go talk to the boss or I have to talk to the manager and I don't know how to do that, especially when you have to talk about something that is quote unquote negative or things that you shouldn't really talk about, like a race or like how you need a mental health day or, things like that. And, so I was like, hey, I practice sometimes before picking up the phone, like calling parents. And like I have like this mental like loop of like, what am I gonna say? How am I gonna say? Because if I don't do that, like my ADHD brain would just go like in all kinds of different directions, and like my first few sentences would not make sense. And I'm like, let me just practice real fast. And like there was like that scene was like 2 minutes or something like that, or like a minute or something.
Right.
But it had so many little things that I could just identify with, and like so many things that we can like pick at and talk about, that I was like, oh, I think this will be perfect to talk about pretty much everything.
Dude, I'm cracking up because I'm just like, is this Bobby?
Oh my gosh, there it is.
I just like
first Bobby reference.
I love referencing Bobby on this podcast.
It's a random name that he just picked out. He's like Bobby.
It's one of my fixations is the name Bobby. I don't know. I don't even know any fucking Bobbies. I just like saying the name Bobby. He sounds like a good guy. My dad's gonna be like, "You're a fucking idiot."
Yeah, probably doesn't say that enough.
Yeah. So I was thinking about you having those phone calls or conversations with bosses about raises, money, anything awkward, or I thought about not. My boss always does this. He'll send me a message on Teams, Microsoft Teams, and be like, "Nas, can we talk real quick?" I'm like, "Damn, you know, got me doing some shit. I've been cheating. I've been
it's that sentence, just yeah.
I've been coming in late and shit." And so I told him, I'm like, "Hey man, like you need to stop doing this shit." And he's like, "What are you talking about, Nas?" I said, "You need to stop talking about. Can you come over here?" Like, "Hey man, I just need to talk to you real quick. Something easy. Don't worry about it." So he's been changing the way he DMs me. It's like, you don't understand, man. I used to get in trouble so much, and like, you need to come to the office. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Or like when my mom.
Well, even if you didn't get in trouble, those are like words like you just immediately start panicking. Even if you're an adult, I was like, oh no, I have to go to the principal's office. It's so awkward.
No,
so like, I'm in trouble.
I'm always in trouble. Shit. But now when he calls me to the office, I'm still in trouble. Don't get twisted. I just don't want to know that I'm in trouble until I get into your office.
You definitely deserve to be called to office like that, but now you just want things to be changed now.
Yeah, the other day I got called into the office and he's like, "Hey man, you want the good news or the bad news?" I said, "Give me the good news." He said, "You're getting a raise for getting your doctorate. Here's $5,000. I was like, "Okay." And then he was like, "You want the bad news?" I'm like, "Nope. I'll just go ahead and I'll talk to you later."
We can just end it here. That's it.
He's like, "No, sit down, man. We need to talk." I'm like, "Damn. My stomach hurt." So I thought about how I practice with students that are neurodivergent or anxious, and how you need to have certain spiels when you go to certain people to talk about certain things. If it's about advocacy, around boundaries around parents, family members, if it's about talking to your professor, it's about we need to practice you writing a speech, writing it down, that way you can articulate yourself better, that way your ADHD mind doesn't get lost. Do we need bullet points? I mean, I've got people that I work with that are adults and professionals on BetterHelp, and they're talking to their bosses about, you know, coworkers' inappropriate behavior and how they need to be transferred out, this and that. And so, you know, we're working on how can they be appropriate without going full rage mode, but they need to show that they're angry, that way the boss takes them serious, but then they can't be too angry because the gender bias, they'll be seen as, you know, B word, bitch. They're crazy or hysterical. So there's certain ways that we need to categorize how do we talk. And we role played in the office, right? They go over their speeches with me sometimes that are written. Me and Spence have talked about this just when it comes to interviews. And like how his mind will go blank and my mind will go blank, and we just be sitting there like,
kind of happened today. Had an interview today.
What happened?
As soon as he asked me a question, I was like, well, I'm just gonna BS this answer.
Well, Spencer was like, well, I talked to my friend Bobby.
Yep, my friend Bobby. You know, I helped Bobby once with his marketing. It was great.
I like all types of shrimp.
Oh my god. Yep, I really Bubba shrimp that. Yep, Bubba shrimp that.
What company was it today? A random company, or like
it's called Dr. Dish. They do like basketball stuff, and
dope.
I know. And so there's this one guy who does like the brand marketing for the stuff, and he asked me a question. He was just like, all right, so how would you take like what you know and like make and try to market this product better than what it already is. And I was just like, oh shit, because
it's on the spot.
I gave him vague answers to what he wanted, right? I was like, yeah, I could do the website and then put all these keywords in, make them better, blah 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 blah. And then after the interview and stuff, we were walking out the door. The main woman who actually first interviewed me walked out the door, and I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I know that was bad, but I just want to thank you for interviewing me. I appreciate it. Thank you. And now I'm sending her an email in the morning being like, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm giving her a list of what I would do for like to make everything better. And then also being like, hey, I just want to let you know that I still really want this job, blah, 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 and all that stuff. Perfect. So making up for it, kind of.
It happens to me all the time, man. Those interviews, I spill the beans sometimes.
I'm sorry, I'm so blunt about how terrible I was.
No, it is what it is. Yeah, I've done it where I've sent emails. I'm like, man, let me follow up on this because this was bad.
Yeah.
Dude, I've done it with clients.
That probably shows, like, if I was hiring someone and interviewing people, like, I think to me that would show like you're not only interest, but that you like
processing,
take initiative to like process what happened and recognize when you made a mistake, right? Which is really helpful when you're working in a group, or even if you're by yourself, like working on your own, because that means that you're interested in improving yourself, right? But like as you were talking about that, I remember there was this one interview I did when I was in college, and I didn't know how to phrase it, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be fine. So I didn't practice. I didn't do like Suko, and I didn't practice. And then so when I got in there, my brain was like, I don't know what to say. And instead of saying like I'm really creative and I like all of these other things, I said I'm a weird person. And I couldn't get out of that. I could not get out of saying I was weird. And I was like, yeah, I'm not getting the job. And like, I was like, I don't know what to do no more. I was like, oh man, never mind.
You're like, I'm a good therapist, but I like feet. And you're like, I didn't ask you about it. Why are you talking about feet?
They asked me what my interests were. It's not my fault.
I like the hairy one, the hairy nipple ones. All right,
Sasquatch. All right, we understand.
Like the plane. Dude, I'm sorry. There's so many cringe conversations and interviews that we've all had. Yeah. Real quick. So for those of you listening to the podcast, there's a bunch of you. There's 100+ folks that pay attention. They know that I went to a little hangout with someone. Well, it was a celebration party because someone had beaten cancer. And so we were hanging out. I hugged the two people goodbye. The person who beat it, their partner. And then there was a coworker that was there. And I didn't feel like hugging people anymore because it's really not my thing. Unless like I'm cool with you, I'll give you the bro hug. I just didn't want to touch anyone else. Not because of germs. I just didn't want to hug anyone. And so I ended up rubbing his stomach and his back like in concentric circles. Which was like horrific for me. And I'm like, why, God? Why? I could feel like the Winnie the Pooh of him, just like, and so I finally was in a staff meeting this last week, Wednesday. I was like, hey, I was talking to one of my other counselors that's on the spectrum. I'm like, dude, I blew this. And he's like, what happened? So I talk about it, and the other dude's standing there. He's like, I don't even remember that happening. And I was like, yeah, do you don't remember me like rubbing you down?
It'd be great if it was just another man that you rubbed down. It'd be great.
Bobby?
He was like, yeah, man, didn't you remember? It's like, that wasn't me. That was Bobby. What are you talking about, man?
I've got something funny to say that would probably get me canceled, but I'm not going to say it. And he was like, no, dude, I don't even remember it. I said, it was that traumatic that you blocked it out. He said, yep. Everyone in the case conference was cracking up. And I was like, well, this is my fucking nightmare. And then we leave the meeting and he goes, do you want to rub my stomach again?
Please don't tell me you did it.
No,
Please don't tell me.
Thank God.
Oh, thank God.
Thank God.
Like, that's an HR nightmare right there.
I know.
What did you do? Why? Why did you do that again?
Imagine me being a therapist trying to coach people up on social skills.
Yeah.
And knowing that I'm so cringe, and I've told students about this, they've cracked up about it because they have their own personal, like, severe social anxiety. So it's good to make fun of yourself, to let them know that you're human, you still deal with these things and struggle with these things daily. And then it's hard to play the game. It's hard to mask and put on a show. It's hard to be seen as professional and yet bubbly, quirky and yet grounded, weird but not too weird. It's all a weird, fine line.
Yeah.
So, funny story. So Elizabeth, I'll have you talk about this in a second. So we do a lot of this role playing, because having difficult conversations is tough with anyone, let alone people where you really don't understand the intricacies that goes in, like, humanity and how neurotypical operate in this world. So I recently was talking to a student about why are they anxious on campus? Well, what's going on? Are they anxious in the morning? Is it when they wake up? Is it when they're in social environments? I know that the cafeteria is overwhelming for, like, everyone. Where do you sit? Where do you eat? It's too loud. It's too many lights. It's a lot. The smells, the texture, it's a lot. And so I'm walking through this with some of my clients the last few days, and most of them want to just fade into the background, into normalcy. Most of them dress to where they fade into the background. They don't want to be seen or talked to or even acknowledged, which is interesting because they also suffer from social isolation. But yet all they want to do is be, isolated and to not be seen, but they want community. So these role-playing things and building community with a lot of my neurodivergent folks is very hard. And it becomes so lonely and isolating, they become so comfortable in it that you think that you don't need people. But they tell me that they act better, they feel less depressed when they're around people. But it's going to cause them major anxiety. So you see, you're screwed no matter what. You're going to be anxious pretty much no matter what. One brings you more joy, but then also can bring more panic attacks. It's tough. Social anxiety is tough. Communication is tough. Role-playing does help. Therapy does help. Medication does help. But sometimes you just got to have to run right into it. So I wondered with you, have you had any clients that you've had to role play with or work on what they're going to say to people? Or have you had any folks that have been socially anxious?
Yes. I work with kids and teens a lot. So there's a lot of just like sort of like play therapy and like pretending. That's not really pretending because kiddos have a really hard time, like, coming up with a whole new sort of character. So they usually just say whatever they will say or whatever they feel like saying. But I mean, again, it all depends on what the person is comfortable with, because sometimes they just kind of want to talk about their anxiety. They just want, learn more about coping skills. And then that will say, like, that's all the therapy that they're looking for. They're not looking for
the strategic,
like, talking to someone or, But I mean, when it does come into play, there's a lot of like, how would you say it? Sometimes it's very formal, like, okay, so I'll pretend to be so and so, and then you pretend to be yourself in this situation, or like, let's switch roles, like you be your mom and I'll be you, right? And and sometimes it's just more about asking them, like, so what would you say in that situation? Like, not as formal, but just getting them to just sort of practice what it would be like or what it would feel like. Because like, so one of the things that I sort of like learned for myself, and just, the more I work in the field, is that like having someone to talk to, kind of like Zuko without frog,
pigeon
lessens the pigeon pigeon frog, it could be both. It sort of like takes away the fear or like the element of surprise, because you're sort of like prepared for it to a certain extent, because there's always like, people don't really react how you want them to. It would be great if they did, but most of the time they don't. So like there is I guess like a power in, like, once you practice something or you are talking to someone about it, or you sort of acknowledge it, like you did with that coworker where you did something kind of weird and it was like sort of like stuck in your head, like it then sort of like loses power because they made fun of you, it was uncomfortable, but then you were able to move past it. And then so what happens a lot of the times is that we get so stuck in it and we never talk about it, we don't discuss it with anybody or even ourselves because we don't really think about it because it was so cringy. It was like, oh my gosh, what way to do that, like it leads to what you were saying where like I will isolate instead because like having to talk to someone or even making friends, even though I really do want them, it's really hard. And so I just rather not because it's the safest place, like safest thing to do at this moment for me. So it can be, I mean, it's really, we're humans, so we're very complicated and all sort of different / kind of the same in some ways. So but like I think that's why communicating even or having someone to share your thoughts with that's like a safe person to practice with, like, so whether it would be a therapist, a sibling, or like a really good friend or your parent, if you have at least one person in your life that you can just be like, hey, I did something that was so cringy, and then they're like, hey, that wasn't that bad, like that can make a whole world of a difference to you, because you're just kind of like, again, like stuck in your head, like this is so horrible, it's going to be the end of like my social life, and then you realize like, oh, that person didn't even remember, or they didn't even notice that that happened, or like they didn't care. Like that's one of the things, like us when I met like my geeky nerdy group of friends in grad school, then I could talk about how much I like fan fiction or how much I nerd out about, like Loki is my absolute favorite. And then so like I could talk to them about Loki all the time, and they were kind of like, you just love Loki. And now they make fun of me and they tease me, and whenever we go to Comic-Con and the actor shows up, they're like, oh, look, it's your husband. And I'm like, yeah. So like it's just like having that, like another person, like Suko was talking to like this frog pigeon thing because he didn't really have anyone else, and like, so I don't know how much like the listeners and you guys like know of Avatar: The Last Airbender, but like I think before he basically turned his back on his uncle, who was the one person that was there for him the whole time. And so now he doesn't really have anybody, but he's trying to do the right thing. So he finds himself alone. And then so he's talking to that frog thing. And then even that frog thing leaves him. And he's like, I can't, like, he was kind of like defeated. Like he wanted to give up because not even the frog will listen to him.
Yeah. I was talking to, I think, a human today or yesterday. There it is. And they said, everyone's in, all my freshmen, same thing. It's been the same story since I've been working in higher ed since 2015. Is the first few days of school, they're like, I'm leaving this. Fuck this. I'm going home. I ain't got to do this. I'm going to go get a job. I'm homesick, scared, nervous, too much, overstimulated. So they've all said the same thing. And so a person come in today and I said, so what are you thinking about? How I'm just going to be poor for the rest of my life? I'm like, why? So I asked them, like, are your parents poor? And like, no, they're not poor. So I'm like, why would you be poor? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going to end up being poor. I'm like, but you would live with your parents. So you wouldn't be poor. And then I said, being poor ain't that bad. I was poor for a long time. Ain't that bad. So we talked about happiness and getting habituated to money and how everyone's pretty much equal. Doesn't matter really where your money's at, as long as you got your basic needs met, blah, 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 all this stuff. And they just said, I don't want to be working these certain minimum wage jobs. I want to get a good job, make some money, and buy some cool shit. I'm like, yeah, I get it. So, I go on the full spiral. So you're going to be anxious. You're probably going to skip a couple classes. Then you're going to fail some classes. Then you're going to get kicked out of school. That shame will lead into the depression. The depression will lead into you not talking to your parents. Then you'll live at home. You'll get a job, and then you won't show up to the job because you're depressed. Then you probably like dabble in some drugs, get hooked on meth after watching Breaking Bad, and then end up homeless. Your parents will kick you out, never love you, and then you'll die alone. And she goes, well, damn. She said that kind of intense.
Mine was like, whenever I spiral like my anxiety, it was always like somehow I was gonna end up living under a bridge, but I skipped all the steps. It was like, I'm gonna like fail this class and I'm just gonna end up living under the bridge. Like all the other steps, I was like, no, it was immediately. I was just like start packing my things and go live under a bridge. Yeah.
The bridge lady giving people giving people riddles. Like,
Trolls.
Yeah.
I could be trolling people
And
whenever
that
they
troll
pass
from
by.
you. Get off my bridge. Like,
Riddle me
okay,
this.
troll lady.
I don't
Maybe
know
you
any
say.
riddles. So give them math equations. Everyone's so fucking stupid they won't get that right either.
Wow, this
That would give me. I wouldn't know even if they did get it right. I would be like, "Sounds good. All right, go pass."
oh my God. What is the square root? And you're like, oh shit. Well, just
3. Okay, sounds good. Go in.
I'm just gonna
What's
go
the-
around.
What's the
Just gonna
square
go
root of
around.
7? My answer, Bobby.
Sounds legit. Coming in.
We're just gonna make a Bobby shirt. That's all we're gonna do.
Who you
I
gonna
don't
call?
know what it's gonna have on it. Just Bobby from King of the Hill.
Who you gonna call?
It
Who you
should
gonna call?
have like a
Bobby.
tag that says, "Hi, my name is Bobby," so people
Hey,
can wear
there you
that.
go.
I like that.
There it is.
Yep,
That's the
there it
shirt.
is. Hi, my
That's
name is
the
Bobby.
shirt.
I would take 50% of commission. Thank you.
Well, you're gonna get 50% of nothing. So
I know. We'll give it to you
Thanks.
though. Yeah, it's recorded.
yeah. Yeah.
You're like Monopoly money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
give
it's not
people
really
the-
real, is it?
It's Arby's coupons.
Oh my God. That are
I'll
expired.
take those.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, man. Communication is something, man. And so we were talking to this person, right, about communicating with their parents and loved ones. You know, do they know that they're anxious, what they're going through, this and that? And then, you know, some people say yes, they know. Some people say they don't know. Parents know some of the stuff, but not full extent of what's going on. And so, you know, folks will have therapy, and then, you know, they get to college and now they're wigging the hell out, and now they have to go back to therapy. So a lot of my freshmen or whoever comes back to therapy, a lot of shame. A lot of shame, a lot of guilt because they thought they were good. And then this goes back to that damage thing that we were trying to get at, or broken. And it's horrible to sit with that. And so a lot of my students will sit there that are young freshmen that have already been through therapy and meds, and like, damn, I'm fucked up. I'm always like this. I'm always going to be like this, Nas. So a lot of my clients that are neurodivergent struggle with this as well, or that are bipolar or schizophrenic or just very anxious, not like stressed out, like legit anxiety disorder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the meds are going to help you chill it out, but you're always going to kind of be revved up. You know, the OCD may rev up in different ways, numbers, counting, certain stems, hair twirling or picking, like those things will be there. But letting anyone know that those things are there and communicating that is tough. And so having a therapist to verbal process with, or other friends to process with it, it's helpful. Communication is key.
Excuse me. It's that stigma that like kills it for everyone. So like one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to include my brother in my podcast. My brother doesn't know anything about mental health, and so sometimes he tells me to tone it down a little because I can go off on rants about, you know, mental health. But like, as he had no choice because he's my sibling, so he has to listen to me. And like I would go off on rants about like mental health or something that I learned in class, or like just my own journey, like talking to him about it, that got him thinking about it. And so I think this is why like communication is so important, right? Is that I would just say random things about mental health that I learned that I thought it was important, or like I was like, I don't understand why people just don't communicate or like do something. And then that got him thinking about his own mental health, realizing that he has ADHD. And then he started pointing things out. And then I was like, oh, I also have ADHD. And then it just kind of like went full circle. We're like, and we're talking more about it. And part of the podcast is like, I think we have one episode where not out yet, but eventually it will be. Probably, where we talk about sort of like our own experience, because we were both adults when we were sort of diagnosed, and now I'm taking medication for it, and so have a different perspective of what it's like. He's not taking medication for it yet, so we have like different perspectives, and just realizing, like, I don't know, you said that sometimes you give a provisional diagnosis at work, and I imagine their grief that happens after realizing how much help they could have received, but they didn't, because they were considered to be quote unquote normal. And like nobody understand, and all those years of suffering or being left out or feeling alone, like nobody understood. And like no matter how hard you try to do something, you just couldn't, because it was just your brain's not wired to be able to do that, or to be able to do it as easily as it seems other people are doing it. Like it's really tough. And that's kind of, again, why I wanted to talk about masking with this, because I think in the clip that we saw, Suko talks about like he says something about like, oh, he's good now. I mean, he thought he was good before, but now he really knows he's good, right? And then so that's kind of like what happens once you get a diagnosis, and then you're like, oh, I thought I was being myself. But after the diagnosis, you start paying attention to all the little things, and then if you start sort of like slowly removing the mask, then you truly become who yourself.
Yes.
And sometimes, yeah. So
and
sometimes
then you
that
get to
takes.
choose. So you're pretending to be this avatar for most people, but then after you get a diagnosis, or you just do some introspection therapy, whatever, then you get the autonomy, the power and control of you choosing what you act like and when you act like. And thus it's okay if you mask in those moments, because now you're choosing. Where before it's a subconscious, before it's because you're hypervigilant, before so you don't get found out as a fraud or weird or awkward or aggressive, right? Or too masculine, too feminine. Spence, we did a pod on that Dragon Ball Z, and who was that? Who are those two characters? Piccolo. Who's
it was Gohan, I think. Yeah,
Gohan
Piccolo
and Gohan. And
yeah,
so right, he
where
was a bad guy.
Piccolo dies pretty much, and then Gohan is like right there beside him, because Gohan was getting trained by Piccolo, and so Piccolo, it was always reserved because he was the evil guy in the past series and stuff, and he was always alone, seen as the evil guy. But then, he finally took on like a father role kind of for Gohan. And so there was a really sentimental moment where after Piccolo died, it was kind of just like, you were always like a son to me, or some shit like that. And
he was probably even more powerful because like his own dad wasn't actually there.
Yeah,
right? Like
so
Goku was
like
gone most of the time. Yeah,
Goku was a weird dude. Like he's just like, yeah, I'm a father, but you know what? I'm gonna save the world and not really talk to my son. So, see ya.
The last thing he says is, "No, you were my only friend." Gohan.
Oh, there you go.
And I was like, I was like, I ain't gonna lie, Spence. I was like, huh?
Goddamn anime's getting to my feels.
I'm trying to tell you. So imagine the story arc of being healed the entire time, then if we're using wrestling terms, WWE, then going babyface, and like having this good vibes and communication and someone to be a friend with you and all that. I mean, it's one of the most powerful things that there is in the world.
Yeah,
to just be with someone, and as my client said today, I'm not crazy, Nas. This is how I talk. I'm good now. I'm like, oh yeah. So that I can like handle things and not take it out on people. I'm like, good. I'm like, you saying it like multiple times makes me think that you're not good. Like, you're trying to sell me on this shit, and I feel like you're not good. By the end of the session, I was like, okay, you're good. But people will say these things, and they'll be super insecure, and they'll take their insecurities and then project it onto others, or they'll take their fears or their anger and aggression and they'll take it out on others, and they'll be seen as this bad person. And as soon as you start to actually meet people that stay with you, and not saying that you should stay with toxic people, but if there is good in you and you get some homies to like kind of be with you, soothe you, accept you for some of your eccentricities. Ooh, I said that word right. That was close enough. It's really validating. Like, damn, I'm crazy as shit. That motherfucker stayed. Like, Spence, you stayed after you met me, Pops, and Celine. You stayed. Like, that's when you know that something wrong with you.
I know, right? I'm part of the weirdo.
You're part of the problem.
Sharing the same brain cell, right? Because so that's why I love Zuko as a character so much, because we see that exactly what you were talking about. He's able to find that group later on that actually sort of stays with him. Yeah, because then he later on in the episode, he actually goes and tries to talk to them. And some of them are like, yeah, sure, like we need you, like Aang needs to learn how to firebend, so I guess you're part of the crew, but we still don't trust you, don't steal any of our things, don't try to kill us or we'll kill you, kind of thing. But like eventually they start realizing that he really has changed. So he made that effort, right, to like go and talk to them. He opened the lines of communication to everyone, and whenever he was confronted by someone who didn't quite trust him yet, he still kept at it. So he taught them how to sort of like interact with him again, little by little, right? They started learning from each other. And sometimes what happens, so I please correct me if I'm wrong, but like, so for the conversations that I had with my brothers, a lot of the times when it's like a group of male friends, oftentimes there is a lot of masking as well.
Hey, are you a nerd? Do you like pins? If you're like any of our followers and you said yes, you should check out our collaboration with Pinfinity. They have Power Rangers pins, Transformers pins, and for all of our bronies out there, My Little Pony pins. Go check out our Linktree or use our code DSP to get 20% off your Pinfinity order today.
That happens, not necessarily about your own mental health symptoms or whatever, but also like just wanting to be perceived in a specific way and not wanting to be seen as weak. So there is sort of like this masking of like, oh, you know, I've been anxious or depressed, but I'm fine now. And then sort of like dismissing it because you don't really like, it's awkward talking about it. Or like maybe like your group of friends didn't start out talking about like the deep important things, like we just hanging out because, you know, you both play the same video games or you live next door to each other, or like you just have one or two things in common. But then little by little we need to like make that connection with other people. And if you are going out through like a self-healing journey now, and you want to improve that communication with other people, you kind of have to almost teach them how to do it, right? You have to model how to do it for them. Like to have that sort of interaction of like, oh, so when you're stressed and angry, this is how I'm gonna react to you. So when I'm stressed and angry, that's what you would do to me. And that works like better. And so there's like this thing of like further understanding each other and creating sort of like that safe environment for each other, especially if you're like really good friends, right? Or like, oh, you find that group of friends that actually stayed.
So I would say there's more masking, and Spence, you can chime in too. There's not that much masking or masculinity going on when it's usually like one dude, like it's just me and you, not a lot. If it's me, you, and Colin, not a lot. But now if we start adding more people, then all of us start to like turn up the masculinity meter just a smidge every time there's a new person. I feel like that's how it is with me and my friends.
Yeah, I would say that, and I would also say sometimes it's not even like masking. Sometimes it just doesn't even like coming up at all, you know?
Oh yeah, when it comes to emotions, yeah,
like those
it
subjects,
rarely comes up.
yeah, they don't even come up. It's more about just, but and also with that, sometimes I do appreciate that because sometimes I don't want to be talking about that stuff. Sometimes I just want to hang with my friends and not really think about it. And those are the best times, really, when, you know, we're just chilling out and, you know, we don't have to say anything about what's going on. We can just enjoy the moment. Yeah. And, you know, and then that makes me feel better, especially as a person. But yeah, I mean, for me, at least, I think that for the most part, it's sometimes those topics just don't come up with some of my friends. Like we just don't bring them up because, you know, we ask like how we're doing and stuff. And if anything's wrong, we get into it. But otherwise, we kind of just enjoy, you know,
what's going on,
having those moments and stuff. Like if I want to go play basketball, I'm not gonna be like, hey, bro, man, feeling depressed. Like, no, it just doesn't come up. It just doesn't. We just want to go play basketball, you know? No, so
you're right. I feel like it doesn't come up then. And if we're more like sitting around drinking a beer or eating food, then it has to go in a certain direction. There has to be something very pungent that's going on for us to dive into it.
If someone's acting weird, then you want to ask about it. Like, hey man, what's going on? You good?
That's how it gets brought up. Yeah,
if somebody's acting weird, that's when it usually brings up. But if everyone's just kind of acting like themselves, and then usually it doesn't really come up.
And then some people would say, like, well, you're not creating the environment. I'm like, man, that's how we've been since day one. It depends. I was going to say something. There is this video that's going around of this dude's playing Call of Duty. And Spence, I know you've seen it. And they're like, hey, man. He's like, yeah, man, I'm sad. And they just start roasting his ass.
Like, I think I sent you that one, actually.
You sent it to a couple other people. Sent it to me. It's like, you little punk, man. Like, oh, man, look at this guy. He's sad as hell. And he's like, you should just go, you know, jump off a building. Like, it's bad. And the title was like, "This is
but
why
you know
men
what? It's
never
so
open
funny
up."
though, because it's
It's
like
funny,
some
but it's
guys just
bad.
need that. Look, some people just need those people. They're just like, come on, bro. It could be a lot worse. It could
As
be,
long as it's okay,
you know.
you're all roasting each other and it's okay. But if like the
Yeah.
dude was like legit suicidal, then come on, man.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would expect
doubt he
that.
was
But,
during Call of
if you're
Duty.
playing Call of Duty, then you're all
Well,
right, bro.
because it's different, right? So as you were talking about, like how sometimes you just wanted to hang out and it's the best time. Sometimes that's what we need. We don't need to talk about it. Sometimes we just need to have fun with our friends and geek out about something, you know. And because earlier I was talking to my parents about, slowly, my parents are Mexican, so there is a lot more stigma, I feel like about like mental health just in general. So I'm like slowly trying to like drop hints as to what actually happens in therapy and what therapy like
real
happens.
quick though, Mexicans don't have mental health issues. That's not a thing that we have.
Of course not. Everybody else does though,
No,
but not
that's
Mexicans.
that's just for white people. That ain't for us. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Complete sarcasm, people. Complete sarcasm.
Yes.
Do not cancel me.
Like an alarm for sarcasm, like sarcasm
ahead.
Detected.
Or like Shell and just like have a bazinga at the end, just so you know we're being sarcastic. Yeah. So I was talking to them about like, what happens in therapy, and because there's so much stigma, like just in mental health. And oh no, I got distracted and my train of thought completely left my brain.
So I can take the reign.
Yes.
Oh, you want me to take the reign real quick on stigma?
Yeah, go ahead.
So think about this. Human comes in, they've had therapy, they've had meds, the parents are in on it, and yet they come to my office and they still feel like shit and shame. I said, okay. So what did we even do today? She said, we just talked. I said, 50% of the time you was laughing. The other 50% you was crying. So that, that was bad. But it wasn't that serious. We're just talking. I validated some things, said that you're not broken. Like we talked about some funny things, some social situations. This thing that we call therapy really isn't that serious. It really isn't that big of a deal. It's just a conversation with another human that happens to have a couple degrees. But people make it to be this huge thing and this scary thing where they visualize like some white dude sitting on a chair and them laid back and them like crying and talking about how, a deep abuse and emotional trauma. That's not what therapy is. It's a conversation between two humans that create this world that help them understand their world. And it's like a friendship, but it's not, because it's professional. Because like I can call you on your shit, where friends, they can't always call you on your shit. They're supposed to just support. It's really not that bad of a thing. And yet everyone thinks that only crazy people go there. Like a lot of my students of color, same thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's because a lot of the time, especially if it's like someone's first time going to therapy, there's like whatever it is that they know about therapy is whatever is in the media. And oftentimes it's a horrible representation of what actually happens, right? And then so one of the things that I highly encourage everyone, not just like my clients, but since other people are listening to that are not my clients, please consider this, that like if you are going to therapy and you don't really vibe with your therapist, find another one. Find another therapist. That's okay. We're used to getting fired. Like we want you to fire us. Good therapists, we want you like to get fired because that means they're going to we're not a good match. Like we're not a good match. And if I'm not really helping you, or you feel like I'm not helping you, find someone else. Because my style of doing therapy might be different than yours. And then so that person might be looking something more like what your style of therapy is like. But then we also hear like all the kind of like horror stories sometimes.
There's some bad ones out there. Yep.
Yeah. And then so like I reference Mexico because I don't want to go too much into details, but I heard stories of like therapists like actually hitting their clients with pillows to make them cry, or forcing them to cry because they need to release their emotions. And I'm like, no, I don't do that in therapy. Like I immediately turned to my parents and I'm like, I don't do that. I don't do that in therapy. I don't hit anybody. I don't force people to do things. Like I don't do that. But like, if those are the stories that you hear, you're going to be like, I'm not going to therapy if that's what it's going to be like.
Spencer, real quick pause. Can you imagine someone that this is their first time ever listening about therapy, and they've got me being weird as shit, and then her Mexican self talking about, I heard that we beat people with pillows.
We just like, okay, never going there. That doesn't
I
sound
never
right.
talked to a Mexican therapist ever again, especially one with an Arab name. Never happened again.
Yes, Nazir beat me with a pillow. What do you do? I think that's a hate crime. I don't know.
I'm Mexican though, so technically, you can't. It's persecuting me against my religion.
It's persecute your religion of Mexican.
I love being Mexican and Arab right now because I can make fun of our own people without getting canceled.
Oh my god!
I'm nervous, so I'm just gonna hold my toy.
Oh my gosh!
That's what I love about the podcast. Sometimes is we've talked about this with many therapists on the show.
Yes.
Getting rid of your therapist, finding people that match this and that, fighting some of these disclaimers. We talk about vulnerability and pushing through that, going through the anxiety, because running from it. I just posted a clip today that we did with Mandy Spence, a reel where it was Batman talking to Alfred. He's like, hey man, I don't know if I can do this again. To love someone, and then I thought I would never be scared again, and now you almost died, Alfred. He's like, this is fucking terrible, and I never want to feel this again. But those that are strong or have help can go through those hard emotions because they feel safe enough to do it. Emotions suck. They're awesome, but they suck. Communication.
They do suck. Well, especially like the scary ones, right? Like anger sometimes can be really scary. Sadness, jealousy, like all of those are like, I don't want to feel that. I just want to be happy all the time. But like your body, I don't think our body can physically like make you feel happy all the time.
No,
it would just like explode.
Like Spencer,
probably not, but
we just did the podcast on Inside Out. So right, there's Joy. That was the character, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then Sadness. Did she have a different name, or is it just Sadness?
It's just they just name their emotions. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just joy, sadness, anger.
Yeah, there's no way to
envy?
Just keep joyful. Envy, yeah.
And disgust, I think.
Oh, disgust. Yep.
Disgust.
You're right.
There you go. That's what all my clients feel towards me. Yes. Disgust.
That's good.
That's
wow.
Good. Therapy. It works.
Therapy. At least you don't hit them with pillows, right?
Yeah.
Yet.
The funny thing is because I do throw things at clients every once in a while, but it's not like behavior modification. It's like, shut up.
Like, yeah, I hope they cry.
Elizabeth is looking at me like, you're not supposed to do that. That's not in the rule book.
Somebody call CPS.
CPS?
Like,
are they 5?
Well, but you know what? Like it actually like it depends. Because so Spencer was talking about like sometimes just hanging out with friends. That's like all that's needed, and sometimes like the type of therapy that we need is someone like joking around with us or like just providing a space for me to rant about whatever it is need. Sometimes I actually need someone to like sort of like guide me in the journey and try to understand where all of this came from. Sometimes I just need someone to teach me like, self-help skills. So whatever, like it's different. Like that's why they were like, so what do you do in therapy? And I was like, a little bit of everything, a lot of things, depending on what the person wants to do or it needs at that moment or is ready to do. Ready to work on. And so one of the reasons why I like fandoms and I like geeking out, and I recommend everyone geek out because it's so good for your mental health. And I believe everyone's a geek, everyone's a nerd, because if you don't nerd about like popular culture, like D&D or like video games or like, comic books, anime.
Fandom, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Basketball, music, if you're into theater, like you're nerding out, you're geeking out about something. So if that's what you love, then do it because it makes you feel happy. It makes you feel better. And it's like you're working on your mental health and you're having fun. That's like a win-win situation. So why wouldn't you do it? And actually, you mentioned something about like keeping in mind who's listening to this podcast, especially adults, because adults, sometimes we get to a place where we have so many responsibilities or we're responsible for other little humans that our self-care is like going to like take the kiddos to do something fun And I'm like, yeah, no, the kiddos are having fun. I'm glad you had fun too, but what are you doing for yourself? Not the kiddos, for you. What is it that you love? What are your hobbies? And I like, it's really like, it upsets me how many times parents are like, oh, I don't know.
I don't
have any hobbies.
Yeah.
I hang out with my kids. And then I'm like, well, hanging out with your kids is great and playing with them, interacting with them, but you also need hobbies. Like, and it's great because they're like, but my kids, I don't want to leave them alone, or like a babysitter. And I was like, no, because that would teach your children to have boundaries and to take care of themselves. If your child sees you going every now and then to do something that's fun for you and sees you come back super happy and like re-energized to be a parent again, it's so good for everyone, like not just you. And like they will learn also that, hey, I need to take care of myself. I need to like, engage in self-care and do fun things for me too, not just for other people.
Yeah. So what I talk about with folks that are neurodivergent is it's more about what are your special interests. So they could be hobbies, but it's usually called a special interest. But you could call it a fandom. And that could range for, I just met someone the other day that just makes music. And I was like, what type of music you making? You doing rap, ain't you? And then I know it wasn't rap. And the kid's like, I was like, it's EDM, isn't it? He's like, yeah. I'm like, bro, that's just noises and squeaks. He was like, how dare you? How dare you?
That's me in video games. I'm like, that's just a bunch of like things, and that like I'm not interested in that. Like I'm starting to play video games now because
hold on, man.
I guess there's this new one that's coming out that it's supposed to be the shit relatively soon. I don't know, some new video games coming out. What game
is it?
I don't know. It's my boy said it was like Skyrim, but it's like
multiverses 3 or whatever. That's probably it. That just came out, so
I know.
But it's just coming out now. You haven't been into video games in years. Stop talking like you got the inside scoop. You don't.
I heard from the people.
Don't. I heard from one person.
I heard from
that says it's coming out, even though it's already out.
I heard from the ginger at work.
Oh my god.
Was it Bobby?
Him? He has no soul. I don't care. Come at me, you redheaded freckled fucks. Yeah.
All right. That is funny though. I'll start using that. Maybe that will a little bit more fandom.
Yeah, like.
Wait a minute.
Sorry, that's my dog. Also wanting to.
We'll be wrapping up here in a second. But the folks that are on the spectrum, sometimes they're scared to share what their special interest is because it's usually going to be perceived or be judged. And so we try to find it. And, a lot of my new students are not used to this big school. And there's a lot of people, a lot of students. So one of my students goes, hey, it's like, what's up? She says, so many new people here. I come from this conservative family and out in the boonies in, Indiana. And they go, I come to this campus and I saw a furry. I was like, oh, you know what that is now, huh? Okay. And so we talked about how this school has a lot of progressive folks, a lot of queer folks, a lot of international folks, one of the highest rates, like in America, our school, because of our graduate programs. And I said, so it's new. It's going to take some time to get used to because you're going to have to learn to talk to certain people, meet new people, right? I'm the first colored person you've seen. And they were like, no, I've seen colored people before. And I'm like, yeah, don't ever say that.
Yeah, I've seen the coloreds. They're over in their own space. They got their own thing going on.
And
I understand.
I know that they're probably nervous, right? Because here I come, some 6'2", 6'3", big old guy, and I'm a therapist. It's this little tiny individual. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I'm not gonna rob you. I'm not one of the people that you saw on CNN.
Sure.
Whenever I ask about hobbies, because that's one of the things that I really like asking about, just hobbies, like just the first few questions that are like, what's your name, what are you into, like just to try to get used to each other and for them to feel more comfortable. I'm like, easiest way is to get them talking about something that they love. Correct. And then, but whenever I do, it's like, oh, what did you geek out about it? Like it's always so tentative, like, oh, I go to conventions or I do this thing with my friends. And then I had this one person who I think it was Magic the Gathering that they were really into.
That's real.
This
nerds.
was when I was in Indiana, right? And so I said something like, oh, what did you do, for fun or your hobby? And he said, he started like very tentative, like, oh, it's a card game. And I was like, oh, which one? Is it Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, whatever? And I started naming. He's like, oh, it's Magic the Gathering. And I was like, oh, cool. I know of it. I don't really play it, but like, oh yeah. And then he started talking about tournaments and how far he's gotten. And then so he like really opened up like that. But it's this very like, I don't know how much to say. Like, how much are you gonna judge me if I say? So sometimes for me, there's a little bit of self-disclosure of like, I have Lokis everywhere in my office and like at home. So I was like, Loki's my favorite. Why do you have a favorite? And then kids like, make fun of me. I don't know, kids like, because you worked with a lot of like adolescents and like
17
early, like
to probably 22 is my range.
Yeah. And I work with like younger kiddos, and a lot of kiddos are like, you're old. And I'm like, what? And then at one point I said something of like, oh, did you like watching cartoons to a 10-year-old? That was the wrong thing to say, because for the rest of the time was like, you still watch cartoons? And I was like, well, cartoons are fun. Even adults can watch it. And they're like, no, they're not cool. And I was like, apparently I'm not a cool therapist then.
Yeah, the kid's like, fuck this lady, man. She's still watching cartoons. It's going to help me with my depression.
No, it's like, I'm 10 years old. I watch CNN. What the fuck is she doing? I don't get this.
I was over here like trying to learn how to play video games to be a cool therapist, and this kid was like, no, you're not cool.
Yeah,
like, what are you watching cartoons for?
Cigar with a raspy ass voice.
Like, man, see?
With a monocle top hat.
Still watching the tunes, eh? Yeah, see?
I never felt more judged in my life. It's a thing. It's a thing.
I mean, that's what happens when you work with kids. They just say it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. I think that as we talk about this and kind of like that role playing and him talking to the frog, last thing I wanted to mention was, I have a lot of humans that re-experience this cringiness. So they'll go home and they'll experience it at night, and it's like a visceral, physical feeling of cringe. And some of my folks may go, or scream or yell, or they may say something under their breath. I actually do that. It's like I'll be talking to Spence or someone else, and my mind will be somewhere else. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Because I'm like physically telling myself, don't do that. Sometimes I'm just laughing, and someone will be like, why are you laughing? I'm like, oh, I'm just thinking about shit in my head. I'm sorry. I'm laughing at myself. So a client asked me, like when I'm getting stressed out and I'm replaying things, like I'll mimic or say those things that I hear. Or if I'm watching a show, I'll say those things that I hear. So it's kind of like me, Spence, and how I repeat a lot of things that get stuck in my head. I'll like say 7, or I'll keep saying Bobby because it's just stuck in there. And so some of my students will have this echolalia or different versions of it to where they are mimicking and mirroring and just repeating it under the breath. It also gets exacerbated based on stress or emotional like volatility levels or excitement. It's interesting. So like most of my students don't know that they do it. This student caught it. And so we talked about it. Why did I bring this up? Because it's like you're having a dialogue with yourself. So there's ways to do it when you're trying to be strategic to work on something to build up confidence. Then there's some of us that are neurodivergent that end up having these conversations with us that are completely like subconscious and they're just happening. We don't even know that they're happening, but they're soothing. It's like a tick. Mm-hmm. Human existence is so different. And I think it's cool to show this scene because I end up having conversations with myself all the time. Spence, I've been thinking about these conversations. I just applied for the job and I'm already thinking about conversations and how they're going to go. I'm already thinking about conversations with my clients for 3 weeks from now. I'm thinking about conversations that I'm going to have with you after this podcast, maybe about something else. Not right now, but before, right? I'm already thinking of things. And so sometimes when I think about it, they'll just like spit out. But it's me trying to perfect what I'm going to say. So as someone that's neurodivergent or a little bit more anxious, there's no such thing as perfection, but we try and we try and we try. Some of us that are more anxious, not saying that Spence was in the interview, but will blank.
Sometimes it will happen even if you're not anxious, though. Sometimes your brain just kind of stops working for like a few seconds.
And so that's what I was thinking with Spence today. Your brain shut off. But I think it's kind of inappropriate, some of those high-pressured questions. Not everyone's good at thinking on their fucking feet. And so when do you ever respond or make a program or a business transaction within seconds? It's usually methodical, thought out, strategic.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And then, not excuse, but, they gave me they gave me like yesterday, they told me that they wanted to do an interview today because the main person was flying in from doing like video shoots and stuff like that. And so it's like, and then I had to work from like till like 5 p.m. and I was just exhausted. So I couldn't do any prep or anything. So that probably also hurt me as well. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? I'm answering these questions as best I can. And what are you going to do?
You follow up, send it.
But I want to like, I feel like I'm very like optimistic. So I want to eventually get to a point where we're able to say, just even in a job interview, can you give me a few minutes so I can organize my thoughts? Because that should be a thing for us to be able to do. Like you said, because not everyone's good at thinking on your feet. And like everyone has like different learning styles, different ways that they communicate, right? And then so one thing that I found really helpful with like my brother and like my friends who are like my safe people, I've just started saying, like, I think I just said it earlier in this podcast, like, oh, my brain just went anywhere. And like it just left, like my train of thought just left and it's not coming back. So let's just move on from this. And for me, it makes it way less awkward because I'm just acknowledging and I'm okay with it because that's how my brain works. And my friends are like, whatever. They also have ADHD. So they're like, yeah, let's go talk about this other shiny thing that's happening. And then so it's like, just having like a simple sentence of like, hold on. And even like sometimes when I'm talking to my sibling, like, words come out and even to me they make absolutely no sense, and then I'm like, let me try again, and then like it makes sense, and then I'm like just having like that conversation because I've done it with us. I've done it with some clients and it has I think it has worked really well because it makes them feel like, oh, I do that sometimes, or like I'm also human. I make mistakes. I'm not perfect. So I'm like, and part of that, like, with the stigma that is sort of like associated with like mental health is that this uber professional person in like a suit and tie like is going to be talking to me, and I'm like, no,
it's more chill.
I wear t-shirts with the things that I like, and I'm like, I'm just like you. I also struggle with my mental health. I'm not perfect. I don't have my life together. I would love to tell you that and like give you like a magic wand to solve your problems, but I can't because it doesn't exist. So let's just work together.
So
it's not just you, it's about me.
But
it's my therapy now.
I know a lot of your things are like super timed because my interviews are all timed as well.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's kind of the thing, is like it was like a 30-minute interview and stuff like that. I did do one job that I've spoken about before, or an interview where they literally were like, you spend 2 minutes on this question, 2 minutes on this question, 2 minutes on this question. And I was just like, yeah, I ain't getting this shit.
So it makes it almost impossible to advocate in those situations with friends, professors, parents. Then you can advocate, hey, let me give me a second. Hey, I blanked out. But some of these jobs where communication is key, folks that are ADHD or neurodivergent, it's tough to assemble your thoughts because, they're on to the next person. The better speaker you are, the more likely you are to get a job. And so that's why the unemployment rate for folks on the spectrum is extremely high. It's one of the reasons why it's, anywhere from like 90 to 98%, which is high as shit. And that's a little skewed because it's taking severity, even though it's not how we're supposed to say it anymore, but it's taking folks in a different version of autism. But it's tough to advocate for those things. I end up vamping, they call it, or like, I'll just keep saying shit, and then eventually I'll figure out what I need to say, and I'm like, got it.
Yeah, I usually just kind of, sometimes I just stay on a rant about like the same thing, but like change the words a little bit. And then I'm just like, just going into a spiral. I'm just like, oh no, I feel it.
You've done it on the pod.
I just start sweating. It's bad. It's so bad.
I've seen you do it on the pod. I don't know about interviews, but I've seen you do it on the pod. And you're like, Nas, I have no fucking clue what I'm talking about right now. I was like, what?
Yeah. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. I forgot what this thing was about.
It happens. It happens. And so with more practice, usually becomes more confidence, usually becomes more ease and more lax. And then you're able to articulate things better. But for a lot of folks, it's tough.
It is.
If you find you a frog or a pigeon, and this is the last recommendation, find your safe people to talk to to process. If you need to do it on your own, like we do for presentations, because a lot of you are going to have speech classes, you're going to have group projects, you're going to need to work on your social skills, because that's just the way the world works. There is no opting out. You will have to do some of these things. Technically, things should be more of a differing abilities type of thing to make sure everyone gets to play, but it's not how it is. And so we have to find our best fit ways to navigate this world being neurodivergent. I tell all my clients, like, hey man, I'm gonna be looking off to the left, and I ain't gonna be making a lot of eye contact when I'm thinking. And they're like, no, that's fine, that's cool. So the other day, I was looking off to the left, to their right, and they start waving down and the floor. They're waving like this. I'm like, motherfucker, what are you doing? I'm like, they look down at their hand and we're waving. I'm like, wait, I'm not. Quit fucking with me. That's when I hit it with the pillow. I'm Mexican.
Like, cry
for all of Mexico.
Oh my God, I love Mexico.
For all us Aztecans. All right, I'm done. I've enjoyed this. FYI, Elizabeth, you are legit ADHD. That's okay.
What? I don't know why it took me so long to figure it out. And I'm like, it was so obvious. And I was like, nobody ever told me until like my brother started pointing it out. And I was like, yeah, okay, fine. You're right.
So, Spence, did you notice today? Like they started off a little quiet, little chill, little shy, and then they just
Yep, they just get in the groove. Just like, all right, there you go.
They got it full blown. You actually.
We've had a few people on with ADHD, and we're just like, yep, this is how it is. Yep.
They're in it.
The next episode of this podcast is just going to be me talking, so be prepared for that.
We're just going to put commercials over.
It's like, oh, still going. Another one. Another commercial.
And soap.
Just white noise.
It's just them talking, but how somehow I edited it out. Oh my God.
Just mute.
Here we are doing a scene on communication, and we're talking about silencing someone.
And we're just like, shh.
It's gonna be like giant letters, like this is not the correct way to communicate, and just me like talking in the background.
And our next guest, Bobby.
Bobby, good old Bobby, and a pigeon.
Yeah, that was so random. I'm sorry. I also like saying the word pigeon. I don't know why. I don't like them, but I like saying the word.
Why? Who likes pigeons? I don't. Have you met anybody who actually likes pigeons?
Mike Tyson.
Okay, have you met him?
No.
Then shut
I know people that like birds. Have
you met like an actual like person, not a celebrity, a person? You know,
never met a pigeon enthusiast.
Man, maybe you check out my pigeons. Like you haven't seen it, you haven't heard it, you haven't done anything like that.
You guarantee that person's autistic. You guarantee it.
Covered in pigeon shit. All right, so
the pigeon lady from Home Alone. I don't know that person, but they exist.
That woman was okay.
That's the only person I can think of.
He was hanging out with a child and just being taking him up to an orchestra attic. You're like, what the fuck is this? With pigeon shit on her. You know how many diseases and stank was on her? I don't know how Kevin got through that.
Nice.
I really don't.
She was so nice.
Yeah, nice, but smelled like pigeon shit. You can be nice all you want. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna be like, you need to just back up a little bit.
The sewer system smells so bad at Purdue. Sometimes, like, my office will legit smell like shit. It's horrific. I've complained so many times.
Oh no!
But like, what if you had a student though that like worked in the sewers and then came to your office? What would you say? You'd be like,
so I'm a little sensitive.
We're close today.
Yeah, I'm a little sensitive to some smells, you know. So like, I get some students that smell like horrific, and like I'll be in there like holding back, gagging.
There you go. See.
I'm like, damn, man, you got to go. Like, hey,
can we Zoom call, please? Like,
yeah, it's a thing. How
many times have you to have that hygiene conversation with students?
Many. Probably so much.
Many.
Yeah.
A lot of my neurodivergent students, it's executive functioning is an issue. Taking showers, brushing teeth, deodorant is a thing with a lot of folks. So daily hygiene is a thing that we talk about. Shoes, you'd be surprised. A lot of my students wear like the worst, oldest, bummiest shoes, and like they just got that shoe stank on them. And I'm like, bro, your shoe ain't even got no sole in it. Like, they got to go. And it doesn't matter what gender. I've had it with a young lady last year. I'm like, girl, these shoes are fucked. She's like, but they're so comfortable. She's like, I bought a new pair, but they're not comfortable. I'm like, just wear them for a week. They'll be good. So what did I do? Instead of being judgy, because I did make fun of them. But I said, I'm going to teach you how to clean these shoes with some baking soda, some water. We're going to clean them up real nice, and maybe at least they'll smell a little bit better. They'll look better, and then maybe they'll last another couple months. It's about meeting people where they're at, right? Because maybe they don't want to change, and I wasn't going to make them change during finals week, right? That's too much to handle. Changing your favorite pair of shoes that you walk in everywhere and then go take a test? No, fuck that. All right, Spence, you adding any sauce to this as we get out of here?
Don't get pigeon shit on you. That's about it.
Elizabeth, you got any secret sauce for the frog people?
I just my signature thing. Don't forget to reframe and re-enchant your life, because you need a little magic in our life sometimes,
Look at you.
Wow.
Where can people find you? Well, where are you at? Where do you hide?
My house. I never leave because it's too hot outside.
That's fair. I didn't want to leave today. So.
So I have a website, psychologyforgeeks.com, and you can find me my social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, at psych 4 geeks, and I think it's Psychology for Geeks on YouTube as well. I have a couple. It's sort of like a different version of what you guys are doing here, that I'm doing with like slightly different fandoms, where I just talk about whatever I like and what mental health things I noticed. Some of the videos are not the greatest because I didn't have a microphone, or like I didn't know how to edit. My brother does all the editing, but like we are doing a new podcast where we are discussing Avatar: The Last Airbender, because the whole of Avatar, and for like every single person, everything is sort of like about balance, like finding balance in your life. And that's basically what we advocate for in mental health, right? Having that right balance that works for you. So, we're going through each episode of Avatar, and we're just geeking out about it, and talking about the things that we like. And we are also doing another one where we are talking. I'm reading One Piece for the first time, and so we're talking about sort of like the things that I noticed in the manga as I read each arc. So that's where you can find me.
I'll make sure to link it in the descriptions. It'll be on all the Instagram posts. It'll be on the YouTube, the LinkedIn, and the Twitter.
Perfect balance.
Perfect balance.
Yes.
When you when you said balance, I just thought about cheese.
Why?
There's a good balance of cheese between, the good digestion and bad digestion.
There's like intrusive thoughts like I've never seen before. It's just like cheese.
I was thinking about like maybe the right pairing, like the right balance with like the right wine or cracker.
He doesn't care about pairing. You will never, if you ever talk food with him, he's never talking about like pairing food with this or any of that. He's just like nom nom. That's about
quantity.
There's quantity over quality. Yeah, that's what we say here in the show.
Right, because more isn't always better. It's like drinking or drugs, right? But for some reason, that's how you know I'm an innocent person. Immediately thought balance is the correct amount of cheese. I feel like people will relate to this.
All right, with that food reference, that is the end of the show, folks. Thank you, Elizabeth, for coming on the show. We really appreciate having you on and talking about Avatar. Yes, Blastoise, go clap it up.
Hercules.
Can't hear anything. Yep. Thank you for coming on, and please go check out all of our socials because you know what, it's going to be growing a podcast, so she's going to need some followers. So everyone who's listening to this, please go follow.
Go check them out.
And then, like Nas said, we'll be linking everything in the description. So please go check that out. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for all of our collaborators up here. We really appreciate you. Go check out our merch. New stuff coming soon. A Bobby shirt at some point. Bobby.
50% will go to Elizabeth. Thank you.
Yes,
It won't be
50% of
50%.
air goes to you.
Yeah. You know, it can like cost us money to make these in time, so we're gonna charge you 50%.
No, I'm good. I don't need
They're going to be
anything.
$50.
At least $50.
At least. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm Spencer. That's Nas. This is the Different Spectrums podcast.
All right, everyone. Much love and peace. And remember, take care of yourself.
Or don't.
And that shit is up to you. Good luck.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.